Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Artificial DM. So today, you have stumbled across my channel, and this is the collaborative project between RPG Tales and Zflocco. Now if you haven't heard their portions of the story, you need to go listen to them. RPG Tales did part 1, link right here, and Zflocco did part 2, link right here. I actually haven't read part 1 or part 2, so we'll be jumping right into this RPG horror story. This is part 3 in the J trilogy, from Richard Rainman. Our party has come down from its roster of 7 people playing to now only 2. The campaign at this point will pretty much revolve around myself and Jay, which wasn't my intention, but it couldn't be helped. Barbarian pretty much phoned it in the entire rest of the campaign, and Gerd, my fiancé, was almost entirely absent. How then do you make a campaign work with only 2 active participants? I'm sure there are good answers to the question posed, but in our case, you can't. Not when you've got a power dynamic like we had. Barbarian Jay and I arrive at next session over Discord, and we discuss our next move. We have received intel that the Orc Goblin army outside the city walls has centered all their food supplies into one area. I lay out a plan to put us all in our element. Jay and the DMPC would fly high above and drop bombs, while I guided them with gust of wind and caused mayhem around camp with giant vermin. Barbarian would act as my bodyguard on the ground, so I would be free to perform my duty. Jay would continually ask me, "Why would that ever work?" Despite obvious hints from the DM, this plan was a plausible idea. Jay would poke holes in the plan until I got frustrated at one point when I didn't know how something would work. He used that as an excuse to throw out my plan and come up with a new one. And, I kid you not, he was going to take 3 hours and 3 in-game days to come up with the perfect plan. He went back and forth talking to people and discovering weaknesses in the orc camp. I would keep pushing for us to go, and Jay would ask for one more thing to do before we left. As the sun set in-game on the 3rd day, a knock was heard on our door. An Inquisitor, high-ranking noble, is here with 2 clockwork guards, and the DMPC. The Inquisitor accuses us of hiding Nexus, an important NPC that we were actually keeping upstairs. Basically, the DMPC and other shopkeepers gave him info about what we were up to, and he found it suspicious enough to demand an inquiry. He also, no crap, accuses Pikachu of selling government property. The property in question was the +1 halberds Pikachu had taken off of broken clockworks and sold on the free market, which if this were a punishable offense, you'd think the shopkeepers would know not to pay money for the weapons. But nope, we need conflict. I start to turn the line of questioning back onto the Inquisitor, despite my -2 charisma modifier, but somebody had to do something, and then... "Okay, yeah, look, we sold the halberds. Forgive my companion Pikachu. He's been hit in the head recently. He's still recovering. As I was saying, before I was rudely interrupted by Nappa." So Jay basically implicates the entire party in his crime, while also dropping hints we have Nexus. Not directly, just stupid things like, "I'm not saying we did free Nexus, but if we did..." This goes on for 45 minutes. Out of character, the party is agreeing that we should probably attack. Seconds before I was about to go ape, the DMPC, after checking upstairs, comes downstairs with a dummy wearing Nexus clothes. During the split-second pause, I had an idea. "Okay, you caught me, guys," I say, before I go into detail about how I got angry about Nexus escaping and just wanted to, punch her. The Inquisitor had cast Zone of Truth on us, but not only do I make the will save, I also managed to bluff just well enough to get the Inquisitor to buy the story. So I guess this means we were not condemned criminals today. But we hadn't even figured out the issue about the halberds. The fine for breaking this law, that no one bothered to tell us, was 8,000 GP. Keep in mind, we might have had that much before we planned to bomb the Orc army, but our preparations had dwindled our money reserves to half. Now Jay and I both say basically the same thing. We can pay half now, and half next week. The Inquisitor specifically admonishes me, but praises Pikachu for the idea. And so the entire party was forced to hand over all of their money. We could have sold the mansion, but I imagine they would have kicked us out and left Nexus alone upstairs. Now if you're keeping score, this wasn't the first time Nappa had lost all of his gold. I felt like I was continually getting punished. I wasn't always aware of how to play, and you would work hard for the gold and items you earned. Yet it seemed Pikachu could do no wrong. So when the Inquisitor walks out, I rolled to punch Pikachu. You idiot! You never thought selling the crap would come to bite us in the ass? Jay, dodging the punch. Okay, well, let's just go on in this mansion now. Oh no! I'm not going anywhere with you or the DMPCs. She ratted on us! You think I'm gonna lay my life in the hands of some narc? Pikachu then walks away from me. He doesn't even attempt to interact with either myself or with Barbarian, who has not said a word for 4 hours. Since her character's deal was to simply smash things, she would wait until there were enemies to squish. Jay talks with DMPC and explains how he had freed Nexus because he discovered some clues about her innocence. You might have had some help with that. Please, no metagaming! Yeah, I was frustrated. I channeled some of that into my character, but mostly I just had to walk away from the computer. The only reason I stayed was for Barbarian. The minute I suggested we go kill more spiders, her voice chat suddenly lit up. At least someone would have fun this session. Afterwards, I messaged the group stating my feelings about what had happened. I explained how it wasn't cool to make someone wait for 3 hours when our time could have been better spent elsewhere. It's not like I didn't do anything, it's just that Jay overtook the session, and the rest of us sat back as Jay and DM chatted away. I got an apology from Jay, but I still had some hard feelings over the issue. I decided I wouldn't come for our next session, the only time I didn't show up, and I regretted it. Remember all the issues I had with Jay? How he played a greedy character who had to be at the center of everything, and how he was the only one discovering lore about the city? Apparently, a bunch of assassins showed up and destroyed the city's nobility. Barbarian and Jay clean up shop, and per usual, Jay loots every single body. He sells all of it without questioning whether or not it would be useful to anyone else. He is given tens of thousands of gold for all of his effort. Yippee! On top of that, Jay did not learn one damn thing from last session. Barbarian left halfway through the campaign, but she later told me that Jay had begun talking again, and Barbarian hadn't been doing anything for half an hour at that point. And what do you know? Nexus finally decided to open up! To Pikachu of all people! Not Nappa, who had just given her this great speech about trust and letting go of anger. It hurts more that DM later messaged me stating that Nexus had run away and only came back to the party because of my speech to her. Nexus provides another lore dump and gives Pikachu a quest to find a pair of fiends. At this point, I tried to gently walk away from this campaign, citing work issues. I was done playing with Jay, but I wasn't ready to give up on Nappa. It was my first campaign, I had told myself, and my character was going to get some sort of awesome finish with Nexus, right? Well, DM informed me that the campaign would be finishing in 2 to 3 sessions, so I joined again, for one final session. Everyone left is here on Discord. Myself, Jay, Barbarian, and Gerd. My fiancé was the first to leave. During combat, she started taking con damage, and DM can't explain why, because Jay goes next, and he keeps talking and interrupting everyone else. Next was Barbarian. We're about to enter the central keep, expecting a fight, but Jay was fighting me on which direction to go, even though we knew where the prison cell was, for Paler's sake. She figured she wouldn't be needed for the rest of the session, and handed over control of her character to the DM. Big mistake. Long story short, we find the pair of fiends, one of which is binding contract wielder in a jail cell, who will give us any information we want in exchange for either a pen or a soul. We all check our inventory. Only Jay has a pen. You know where this is going, right? We needed 2 questions asked. Who leads the Orc army, and how do we defeat the High Inquisitor, believed to be the BBEG? Jay dances around these 2 questions, insisting we should get more information out of him. I love my 2 questions, but the fiend won't give that up. Pikachu is literally described as playing with the pen, and he won't give it up. Okay, floop it. I choose to give up my soul. What? No, dude! He's uncomfortable with my in-game decision to sell my soul. Give me the pen, or I give him my soul. This was out of character for Nappa, but this exchange was once again taking way too long. Jay is pleading to me not to do this, but I figured, if anything were to happen to me, then fine. Let's see how the DM plays this. Then, Jay begins threatening me. He is threatening to knock out my character. At full health, the only way to knock Nappa out in one shot was to use a charged water blast, which Jay had, and which would kill Nappa. Then, out of nowhere, the DM tells us that the other characters are heavily opposed to me doing this. Gerd, Barbarian, Nexus, DM NPC, everyone here is stonewalling me from making this choice. So, I back down. Instead, I ask if I can release the Fiend under a contract that states he will not kill anyone within the city, but may find many wounded orcs to use for soul searching. But again, Jay does not want me to do this. And again, DM hints that the other players are hesitant. Okay then, what are we going to do, Jay? I gather my power. DM, okay. I attempt to use Charged Water Blast to kill the Fiend. Hang on a minute. Roll for attack. Guys, wait! I got a 19! I blew up on both of them. I was tired of feeling like I was continually wasting my time, tired on waiting on Jay as he held up the campaign, and tired of this obvious favoritism. I have to yell into the microphone just to be heard over the two of them, and for once, Jay goes silent. I called out the unfairness of making one player's choices group-based, when the other player could seemingly do whatever he wanted without consulting the others. Silence. 30 seconds go by, and I'm waiting for one of them to talk. DM then perks up and says Jay already rolled, but Jay says that I was right, and that he should at least explain why he was doing this, implying it didn't matter either way. That's when I realized something. I was their problem player. They were playing their own game at this point. I wanted to change the way the game was played. No one else spoke up about Jay, or DM for that matter. I was the only one who had the problem with the campaign. And so, I ended the campaign. Not intentionally. I announced that I quit, believing that with Jay and the Barbarian, the campaign could continue. Then Jay, not 30 minutes later, announces that the campaign is over. Not the DM, but flooping Jay. And you know what was the icing on this cake? The DM then goes on to announce the possible endings, all of which sounded cool, although they would have taken at least half a year to finish. When Jay peeks what he feels like the reason so many players quit, the DM tells him verbatim, "Two had some serious classes to attend to, while the third found themselves frustrated. The tendency to have shenanigans squashed via either reality ensues, logic ensues, or friendly intervention prevents." So yeah, I left the group chat, after giving the pair a piece of my mind. The DM, for his part, did get back to me later that day and apologized for how things turned out. He gave a long spiel about the actions I took throughout the campaign being the only thing that kept things going as long as they did. Jay, for his part, he apologized at first, but then went defensive by saying he just wanted to do whatever everyone else wanted, which is the exact opposite of what he did. I don't talk to Jay anymore. I must once again emphasize that while I was mad at the DM, I no longer blame him for what happened. If anything, he invited me to his next campaign, but knowing Jay would also be invited, I respectfully declined. Besides, I need to take a step back and rethink my relationship with TTRPGs. I've been left feeling like a bad player, and now unsure if I am meant to play them at all. Perhaps I would be better as a DM. I've just bought my first D&D books, but despite my obvious love for this new hobby, I'm taking a few months to step back and discover if I was meant to play D&D or other RPGs at all. Wow, what did you all think of the story? Personally, being as I haven't read part 1 or part 2, I wanted to wait so I could listen to it from RPG Tales and Zflocco, but from what little I read, it sounded like Pikachu and the DM really had a favoritism thing going on. I don't know if OP was a problem player or not based off of this post in relation to the other stories, but he very well could have been. I want to hear what you guys thought of the story down in the comments below. And thanks again so much to RPG Tales and Zflocco. I've really enjoyed doing a collaboration with them, and I look forward to having the opportunity to do more with them in the future. Be sure you subscribe to either one of them, as both of them actually put out way more content than I do on a more consistent basis. And they're great guys, so seriously. Like this video if you enjoyed the story, that really does help me out, and that will be it for today. Until next time, hope you feel inspired.